Secretary Noem, are you familiar with Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002?
It sounds familiar, sir. You'll have to remind me the topic, yes.
To date, can you tell us the total cost for detaining individuals at Guantanamo Bay?
You want the cost per individual?
Do you have that?
I do not have that with me today, sir. I can get that for you.
Well, I do have a number. Do you know how much it costs to hold an immigrant in ICE detention facility in the United States? Do you have that number?
Are you talking per day? I believe the last estimate that I got was $142 a day, around in that approximately, per day.
Yeah, but it's close to what I'm understanding. I understand it's $165 per day, so it's in the range. My time to Guantanamo Bay, in fact, we a letter with Ranking Member or Chairman Paul and the Ranking Member together. When I was there, the 2-month cost estimate for operations was $43 million when we were down there talking to the officials there. And that does not include transportation to and from the island. We find that people are sent to the island and then they're sent back to the United States again before they're sent out. My back of the napkin calculation, we're waiting for your numbers, is that it's costing about $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo Bay.
Senator Peters came prepared, calm, factual, and focused. He wasn't there for theatrics. He was there to get answers about how taxpayer money is being spent under Secretary Noem's Department of Homeland Security, and what he exposed was both shocking and telling.
Thank you again, Secretary Noem, for being here. I just want to follow up briefly with Chairman Paul's questions about the cost of the wall, the billions of dollars that are going to be put forward. We do have to have accurate numbers so that we could look at that for funding it. But I would hope you also take a look at all of the cost of a wall, because there are a lot of other secondary kinds of defenses you have to put forward. I was at the wall. I've been with security folks. They tell me that a lot of the cartels have designed very sophisticated technologies to get over the wall. They're called ladders and they're called ropes. So a wall doesn't really do the job if there's not a lot of other background technologies there. So you just can't put out a cost for the wall. That's money that's not going to be as effective without everything else. So let's have a discussion about that. For the first time in U.S. history, the federal government, at the direction of President Trump, is moving immigrants apprehended and detained in the United States on civil immigration charges to Naval Station at Guantanamo Bay, which I know you're very familiar with. In March, I traveled to Guantanamo Bay with several colleagues to have a first-hand examination of the detention operations underway. And I certainly have serious concerns about the cost involved there. Today, can you tell us the total cost for detaining individuals at Guantanamo Bay?
You want the cost per individual?
Do you have that?
I do not have that with me today, sir. I can get that for you.
Well, I do have a number. Do you know how much it costs to hold an immigrant in ICE detention facility in the United States? Do you have that number?
Are you talking per day? I believe the last estimate that I got was $142 a day, around in that approximately, per day.
Yeah, but it's close to what I'm understanding. I understand it's $165 per day, so it's in the range. I'm still waiting for detailed financial information from this administration from my time to Guantanamo Bay. In fact, we a letter with Ranking Member or Chairman Paul and the Ranking Member together. We wanted more information on the costs there. When I was there, the 2-month cost estimate for operations was $43 million when we were down there talking to the officials there. And that does not include transportation to and from the island. We find that people are sent to the island and then they're sent back to the United States again before they're sent out. I'm not sure why we have all those costs. We have plenty of ICE facilities to keep them here. Why you have to send them there and back. And on the day that I visited, there were 87 people in custody. And my understanding is that's a pretty normal number. At that time, at least. So my back of the napkin calculation, we're waiting for your numbers, is that it's costing about $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo Bay. Man, this is like ripe for Doge. Why is Doge not down there? We're spending $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo, and we fly them down there, we keep them there a while, then we fly them back to the United States. Or we could keep them here for $165 a day. I think that's kind of outrageous. So, I'm concerned by the staggering cost of this, and I would hope, Secretary, you could commit providing this committee a detailed breakdown of the total cost of that operation there. There were just a sea of empty beds. There was all sorts of security folks and nobody in those beds, which is why it's so expensive. So Chairman Paul will probably use this on his Festivus report later, I'm sure, of outrageous government spending, and I'll look forward to seeing that. Secretary Noem, are you familiar with Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002?
It sounds familiar, sir. You'll have to remind me the topic, yes.
Well, Section 872 requires you, as Secretary, to provide a 60-day notice to Congress
yes.
of any creation, deletion, consolidation, or alteration of organizations within the department that are not required in statute, which must include an explanation for the rationale behind any charges. It also prohibits you from making any changes to offices in the status. So my question for you is, why have you not provided notice to Congress of the changes you are making at the department? And will you be doing so in the near future? And will you include intended reduction in forces in that? For example, you've already terminated virtually the whole Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office staff without any communication to Congress about your intent. And the only letter yesterday claiming all of the statutory responsibilities would be met, you sent a letter, but it conflicts certainly with the whistleblower disclosure that I received last week. So please explain to the committee why you are not following this law.
Well, Senator, we are following that law. Those offices that you referenced are still open and functioning and providing their duties as required, but they have been right-sized. Many times the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, or the Ombudsman Office, which you and I visited about before, had grown quite expansive. They were used as a political tool, suing and attacking each other and censoring individuals and not doing the job for which they were created. So we've right-sized them, put them back on mission, and if there would be an instance to where notification is required, I certainly will follow that.
Time has expired.
It was a moment that cut straight to the heart of government accountability and fiscal responsibility, something this administration claims to champion but repeatedly fails to demonstrate. Let's start with the numbers. Peters pointed out that it costs around $165 a day to detain someone in an ICE facility here in the United States. That's a standard, reasonable cost in line with operational norms. But what he uncovered about the current system was staggering. The administration is spending roughly $100,000 a day per person to detain migrants at Guantanamo Bay. Just pause and think about that. $100,000 a day for each detainee. We're talking about a system where people are flown from the mainland United States to Guantanamo Bay, only to be flown back again before deportation. A pointless bureaucratic loop that burns through taxpayer dollars for no clear reason. Senator Peters called it what it is, outrageous and wasteful. He pointed out that this isn't about border enforcement anymore. It's about political optics and performative toughness at the expense of efficiency and basic logic. And this is where his questioning gets even more critical. Peters brought up Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002, a law that requires the DHS Secretary to notify Congress 60 days in advance of any internal structural changes, reductions, or reorganizations within the department. That law exists to ensure transparency, accountability, and oversight. But according to Peters, Secretary Noem has not done that. She's making significant internal changes, even cutting entire offices like the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, without notifying Congress as the law demands. Now that's not a small thing. That office exists to protect civil rights, monitor potential abuses, and make sure the federal government treats people fairly, even during immigration enforcement or national security operations. Eliminating or right-sizing that office, as Secretary Noem called it, effectively weakens a crucial safeguard meant to prevent overreach and abuse. When Peters pressed her on why Congress hadn't received the required notification, her answer was evasive. She claimed they were following the law and that the offices are still open and functioning. But the facts don't align. Whistleblowers have already reported mass firings and gutting of staff from that very office. The letter she sent to Congress even contradicted internal disclosures, revealing deep inconsistencies between what the department is saying publicly and what's happening internally. And that right there, that tension between rhetoric and reality, is the heart of the problem. Senator Peters was holding Secretary Noem accountable not just for her numbers, but for her integrity. Because what we're seeing is a pattern. Inflated spending in the name of security, cuts to oversight offices that ensure fairness and legality, and a refusal to properly inform Congress when those changes are made. This is about priorities. When a government spends millions to fly migrants back and forth to Guantanamo Bay, but cuts offices that protect human rights, it's not about efficiency or security. It's about politics. It's about creating the illusion of control while quietly dismantling systems that hold power accountable. Senator Peters' calm insistence on the facts exposes a much bigger issue. What does real border security mean if it comes at the cost of transparency, legality, and basic fiscal sense? Real security isn't about building walls or inflating budgets. It's about building systems that are efficient, lawful, and humane. It's about using taxpayer dollars wisely and ensuring every department, no matter who runs it, answers to Congress and ultimately the American people. That's what oversight is supposed to look like. And that's why hearings like this matter. They're not about partisan drama. They're about defending the principles that keep government honest. So, when you hear about efficiency and reform from officials like Kristi Noem, look closer. Because as Senator Peters just showed us, sometimes those words are cover for something else entirely: consolidation of power, erosion of accountability, and reckless spending that benefits no one but those in charge. In the end, this hearing isn't just about immigration policy or cost management. It's about whether the government plays by its own rules. And when those rules are ignored, it takes leaders like Gary Peters to remind America that oversight isn't optional. It's the cornerstone of democracy.